It's 1517. We need a pope dressed in white on the throne of the Church of Rome. Henry VIII with his crown and his little bear to remind him who he is, and Queen Catherine of Aragon, his wife. And oh, over there, Martin Luther, a German priest. The Pope is in charge. Martin Luther hates what the Catholic Church is doing and gets cross with the Pope. The feeling is mutual. Henry writes a lovely essay for his homework about how great it is being a Catholic and being married to the auntie of the Holy Roman Emperor. He's given the title Defender of the Faith, which King Charles still bears. Henry's been married to Catherine for 24 years and he wants a son. The problem is, Catherine has had lots of pregnancies and she's only got one surviving daughter, Mary, and that's not good enough for Henry. He wanted a boy and spotted Mary's maid, Anne, whom he quite liked, but he was still married to Catherine. Henry asked the Pope if he could stop being married to Catherine. The Pope said no. So Henry kicks out the Pope as the head of the church in England and makes it so he's in charge. Catholic Catherine is out with her Catholic daughter Mary, and Anne is the new queen. A young priest called Thomas Cranmer helps Henry get rid of the Pope, and Henry makes him the new Archbishop of Canterbury. Quite a pay rise. Remember him, he's important, because despite Henry still wanting to be Catholic, and for his new English church to be Catholic, but with Henry rather than the Pope in charge, Cranmer quite likes Martin Luther. All is well for everyone except the Pope, who kicks Henry and Thomas out of the Roman Catholic Church, and sadly for Henry too, because Anne only has a daughter, Elizabeth, not the son that Henry wants. And then it gets really sad for Anne. By 1536, just 3 years later, Henry has fallen out with her, and she may or may not have been unfaithful to Henry, but Henry was unable to persuade Cranmer to grant him another divorce, so he brings charges of treason against Anne, and she is executed. Henry had plans. He married Jane Seymour, another lady-in-waiting, less than a month after Anne met her end. And in September 1537, Jane Seymour has a son, Edward, and Henry is over the moon. But then, 2 weeks later, Jane dies as a result of the complications from giving birth, and Henry is bereft. We've got some fast forwarding to do now. Anne of Cleves, Henry married sight unseen. Not a great idea. Lasted 6 months and then divorced. Catherine Howard lasted 16 months. And Henry couldn't cope with the idea of another messy divorce, so Catherine rather messily lost her head. Enter Catherine Parr, and she survives Henry. Divorced, beheaded, died. Divorced, beheaded, survived. So Henry leaves 3 children, Mary, Elizabeth and Edward. And you can tell what they thought of him because none of them ever quite got round to building the big elaborate tomb that Henry had planned for himself. Edward, being the boy, gets to be king, but he's not well. There's a regency council, a group of people that help him because he's not 18 yet. But Edward had been raised as a Protestant. So he was in charge of the English church and together with Archbishop Cranmer made it a Protestant church. But then Edward dies and Mary becomes queen. She was raised as a Catholic by her mother, and so the church then returns to the control of the Pope. And Mary tries to get rid of all the naughty Protestants, especially Archbishop Thomas Cranmer, who, shall we say, catches it rather hot at the end. It's not a nice time. England is totally split between Catholics and Protestants. Henry VIII wanted a Catholic church, but with him in charge. Cranmer wanted to follow Luther and have the church in England be Protestant. Edward agreed, or at least the Regency Council agreed. Mary wanted everyone to be Catholic, and Elizabeth was left with a mess and quite a lot of people to deal with. In the end, she decided that the Church of England would be created, something new, not like Henry's Catholic Church, where Henry was sort of the Pope, nor like Mary's Catholic Church, where the Pope was the Pope. The Elizabethan settlement tried to plot a course down the middle, a church not ruled by the Pope, but led by the Archbishop of Canterbury, with the Queen as supreme governor, but under strict Reformed Protestant theology, with Jesus as the head. So by 1563, we pretty much have the Church of England as we know it. The Church uses the brand new Book of Common Prayer, based on the prayer book written by Thomas Cranmer. The Pope is not in charge. There's room for a bit of high church. Some of the more moderate Catholics could come and be a part of the Church of England and feel at home, but the cold, dead hand of Archbishop Thomas Cranmer still guides the Church 450 years later. We might be a bit Roman Catholic. We are Catholic, part of the universal Church, but we are very, very, very Reformed and Protestant. Martin Luther prevailed in the Church in England, not the Pope. So despite what some people might try to tell you, the Church of England wasn't founded by Henry VIII because he wanted to marry somebody else. The Church of England is a Protestant church, created by Elizabeth following Luther and Cranmer. But it was designed so that everybody could be a part of it. And to quote Archbishop Winnie the Pooh, "Everyone's all right, really." And that, my friends, is the dear old Church of England. A middle way, not extreme in either direction, but trying its best to follow Jesus and not be mean to people.